fighting between government forces and Tigrayan rebels has erupted along a new front in the northern part of the country. This comes as the Tigray region was hit by another airstrike. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's government is accusing the Tigray People's Liberation Front, also known as the TPLF, of launching an invasion towards the regions of Wag and Wolqait and Ethiopia's border areas with Sudan. A TPLF spokesperson, however, alleges that the government and its neighbor Eritrea are responsible for opening a new front in the region. Fighting in the Tigray region resumed last week after a 5-month cessation. Clashes and air raids have dashed hopes of peacefully resolving the nearly 2-year conflict. Well, let's get more on these developments. CGTN's Girum Chala is in Addis Ababa for us, and Naba Mohidin is in Khartoum with the very latest here. Girum, the government says fighting has erupted along a new front near Sudan. What more can you tell us about this?
So the fighting, Beatrice, you're referring to bordering Sudan in a more particular strategic location called Wolqait has been there even before the declaration of the cessation of hostilities from both sides 5 months before, that is. And now it has been renewed. TPLF reportedly wants that area in order to open doors and gain access perhaps to Sudan. The Ethiopian government, especially the Ethiopian National Defense Force sources are saying that there has been a strong battle since yesterday in that area, but then again they have repelled every threat that was coming from the TPLF side. On the other hand, we have heard that war has been escalating since yesterday as well in different battlefields in the center, which is bordering the Amhara regional state with Tigray and the Afar, and at the same time perhaps on the northern side, as TPLF is complaining that the Ethiopian National Defense Force alongside the Eritrean counterparts have waged war against its territories. This we cannot independently verify, but we have heard it officially from TPLF force. So, Beatrice, we can tell you that war is escalating, despite the fact that the international community is calling for de-escalation and return to peace talks.
And Naba, what are you hearing, though, from authorities about what is happening at the border with Ethiopia?
Thank you, Beatrice. The Sudanese government is reporting the tensions in the borders, and it's reporting that the possible impacts in the borders, because we know the borders between Ethiopia and Sudan is big and affecting main towns like Kassala and Gadarif, and also affecting big refugees camps where at least 17,000 refugees are hosted there after the war erupted in November 2020. The government also is expecting hostilities in the borders because in the harvesting season coming up in the eastern side of the country, and there is also sometimes tensions between Ethiopian militias, or we can say gangs, and the farmers in the disputed lands. So the government is expected to boost the military forces there and joint forces, and also is expecting more influx of refugees because of the tensions in the borders. And the government also condemned the latest statement by the Ethiopian government to the local media, where he stated about the aircraft crossing the Ethiopian borders, and which was carried by, which was fueled by weapons for TPLF, after summoned the Ethiopian ambassador and say it's against diplomatic norms, and also condemned that, and it's expected to escalate the issue and make a note or make it further to the African Union. And we know that the tensions is big, also is already big between Sudan and Ethiopia, and it may add more tensions to the situation between the neighboring countries.
Girum, could you give us a clearer indication about the humanitarian situation in the Tigray area and how the government is responding?
Beatrice, ever since war resumed in the north almost a week ago, humanitarian activities have been almost disrupted. In some areas, they are now in a standstill. As you can imagine, the war situation is not allowing aid agencies to operate as much as they wanted, especially in the Tigray regional state, where the likes of WFP are complaining the looting of their fuel reserves by the rebel group itself, which the rebel group denies, in fact. And then also in the Amhara regional state, the situation seems to be similar. The UN saying that curfews in different locations in the Amhara regional state is disallowing its workers not to operate as much as they want and address those people who are in need of humanitarian aid almost in an everyday basis. But the government is saying that it is going to facilitate everything necessary in order to address this issue and also allow aid agencies to provide food, shelter, water and others to the affected communities. The Deputy Prime Minister Demeka Mekonnen earlier today also said that they are now engaging WFP, OCHA and the others in order to facilitate and also resolve some of the hiccups which are happening at the moment in the northern part of the country. So we have to wait and see in the next few days if this thing is going to improve. But generally, we can tell you that war is really disrupting humanitarian activities in the north.
All right, Girum Chala joining us there from Addis Ababa, and Naba Mohideen in Khartoum. To you both, thank you. Well, let's get more on this situation now. I'm joined by William Davison. He's a senior analyst at the Ethiopia at the International Crisis Group based in Addis Ababa. William, what is the humanitarian situation in Tigray as of today?
The humanitarian situation has been hard to assess because of the lack of telecommunications in Tigray and the difficulties of moving around the region because of the fuel shortages. One of the last reports from the WFP was that more than half of Tigray's approximately 7 million people are in serious need. And we know that there have been hunger-related deaths, malnutrition-related deaths. So it's a very difficult situation. Restrictions on medicine, lack of banking services for people, on top of all the destruction that came with the conflict. So it's an incredibly serious humanitarian situation. It will be worsened by the renewal of the fighting.
So, William, you know, you're talking about this being a serious humanitarian situation and a difficult situation indeed. How can this situation be resolved, though?
The humanitarian situation, or?
This humanitarian situation.
Well, the humanitarian situation would require the delivery of sufficient supplies of food, medicine, shelter, and everything that needs to be provided. Along with that, to support humanitarian operations, we would also need to see the reconnection of Tigray to the national economy to help the region recover from everything that it's suffered from. But realistically, those types of conditions will only come after this latest period of fighting has died down, the parties recommit to a truce and get some form of political negotiations underway, which will of course need to be accompanied by a massively scaled up humanitarian operation and that reconnection of Tigray to the national economy.